I like this shirt, so shut up.
But you know, by the end of this, I'm going to have 16 shows up this week. 16 shows, and that's if I choose not to do another one.
Oh, and we know you'll do one.
So, I mean, I could have 17 shows in a 7-day time span. Holy smokes.
And if anybody would, all of his viewers out there, if you would send $1 to Randy, he would have close to $100. If you add up all
the views put together, I have about $100.
This is neutral zone infraction, which I love whenever they say that in football, and I think that's us. / that mediocre sports show.
That's really us.
It is, and I really wish that when people neutral zone infraction, whenever you hear that, you should come to us.
You should think of us.
So today's show, and I was thinking, well, I should say this 15-minute segment show, I was thinking in NBA history, maybe let's say in the last 25 years, 20 years, because I know Jordan would have. I don't know if there's any one player that's going to change the landscape in the NBA. And by that, because Randy goes, what do you mean by that? I told him he had to watch the show. But what I mean by that is any one player going to a team that could make that team go to the finals.
Instantly makes them a contender.
Instantly. I mean, I can't think of a player, probably since Shaq, that could take a team to the finals. Now, I know he had Kobe,
and Shaq, even when he won in the Heat, with the Heat, he had Dwayne Wade.
And you know what? Even when Shaq...
But who does it by themselves anymore?
Okay, but even when Shaq went to Orlando, he did have Penny Hardaway, and he did have Neil Anderson.
And if that team would have stayed healthy, they could have won that championship. They really could have, but that team started getting hurt.
And I'm not sure. I mean, Kobe, I guess, in the end, might have taken a team or two, but he still had a pretty good nucleus.
He still had and he still had Pau Gasol, who was an all-star center, and he was a very good player.
All-star player. Now, I don't know if Kevin Love's an all-star.
Kevin Love's an all-star. Remember, when he played in Minnesota, he was a 20-10 guy. 20 points a night, 10 rebounds a game. He was a 20-10 guy. When he was the focal point of an offense, he was on. He's just never learned how to play with LeBron.
No,
he just never has.
But LeBron did take a cast of his first championship against the Spurs. He was the only one on that team.
Yeah.
He literally was.
Oh, those first Cleveland teams he had, it's like, oh my gosh, he was just the only guy there.
And I have to say this year, I felt like he wasn't playing with a whole lot of help.
No, and Rodney Hood, for some reason, completely disappeared. He got kind of an attitude. He's actually a pretty good player, but he got kind of an attitude, and he wasn't playing as hard as he should. And Rodney Hood, don't you understand? This is the only time you're probably going to play in the NBA Finals, and you blew it.
And so my point is, I hear people, they sing the praises of Durant. Durant's a great player, don't get me wrong. But
look at the team he went to.
Okay, you can take Durant and put him on any team you want. And I say that doesn't mean they're going to go to the NBA Finals. Because he didn't do it. He may have done it once in OKC, but he had James Harden.
He didn't go to the NBA Finals with OKC. Okay. He went to the Western Conference Finals with
Harden
OKC.
And Westbrook and him.
Yep.
And you couldn't get him over the hump. This is why when people, like I remember last year.
Yeah, I don't think we think about that enough. Westbrook, Harden, Durant.
And he did.
3 of the best players in the NBA were on the same team at the same time, and they never won a title.
I thought they went, but they may not.
They might have went, but I can't remember who they went against. But I thought it was only the Western Conference, but don't quote me on that.
But the thing is, to me, when I hear people talk about, last year, especially after the finals, Durant's the best. Is he the best player in the NBA now? No, he's not. But people said it.
Yeah, people were saying it, and it's like, no.
No, what is wrong? He had a great game.
He's a great shooter.
If I take Curry and put him on any team, they're not going to go to the finals. If I take Durant and put him on any team, he's not going to go to the finals. And by any team, I mean a really crappy team like Cleveland. Like
Cleveland.
I mean, the Timberwolves and some of these teams are
the Timberwolves have a good young nucleus. They made the playoffs.
But there are teams out there that I think you could put Durant on the Nuggets, and I don't think they go to the finals.
No, we don't go to the finals. I think we get to the playoffs, but I don't think Durant takes that team to the NBA championship. But if LeBron comes here, I think we have a chance at the title.
When people tell me, and I listen to, your Stephen A's, and I'm not saying Stephen A said this, but I just remember there were people out there that said this of his caliber. sports radio talk shows, they would bring up the subject, and I realize that's what they got to do, bring up a subject.
Yep.
But to bring up the subject that, is Durant the best now? No. Nobody on any team is the best except LeBron James. Now. Right now. And for the last 10 years, LeBron James.
LeBron James is still the best player in the NBA. There are times where he maybe goes through a little bit of a slump. Somebody else looks a little bit better. But LeBron James has been more durable. Mm-hmm. He's played 15 years. He's been to, 8 straight NBA Finals? I don't care what anybody says. 8 straight NBA Finals. I know he's only won 3 of these things, but he's been to 8 straight.
But on the team sometimes.
And sometimes he's taken junk there.
Yeah, and I mean, Jordan would have gone to 8. Let's be
honest.
I
fully believe if he wouldn't have retired for those 2 years, the Bulls would have went to 8 straight. They would have won 8 straight.
I think so too, and I think the Bulls actually, but Krause wanted to show he could do a whole bunch of stuff. I think
how's that worked out?
Yeah, well, they blew up the Bulls maybe a year or 2 early. But I'm not altogether sure that they wouldn't have gone to more than because that team, there was nobody that was going to beat them.
No.
If you'd have kept the Rodmans and I know I'm getting off subject here, but even Michael Jordan, how great he was, and in the top 3 of the greatest of all time, simple, and probably the greatest. But what I'm trying to get to is here, even Michael Jordan, from 83 to 90, 7 years. Couldn't get to the NBA Finals. He finally got there in 90, so 6 years maybe, because he couldn't get past either. It'd be it
was Larry Bird.
It was Larry Bird Celtics, and it was the Pistons, and there was a year in there where
it was this way: you couldn't get past the bad boy Pistons. Hey. I mean, if you think about it, Michael Jordan is considered by a lot of people the greatest player of all time. And the bad boy Pistons, while those teams, I appreciate them a lot more than I did then because I hated those teams. But I appreciate them a lot more now. I still don't put them in the pantheon of greatest NBA teams of all time.
They won back-to-back.
They did win back-to-back.
And they had a great player in Isaiah Thomas.
They had Joe Dumars. They had John Sally. They had Dennis Rodman when he was still sane. They had a tough guy like Lambeer. They had Mahorn.
But how many of those are Hall of Famers?
Isaiah Thomas. Okay. I think Joe Dumars is. Remember, the NBA's Hall of Fame is a little bit, I won't say easier to get into. It is. It is absolutely easier to get into. I think even Alex English, I mean, he's a great player for the Nuggets, but I don't think a lot of people look at Alex English and say he's one of the greatest of all time.
They do.
But he's in the Hall of Fame.
He's in, basketball, too, is funny because they'll say, people...
I know there's like a couple Hall of Fames or something.
They'll say things like, like when I say Jordan top 3, the reason is because in basketball, you have had such phenomenal players over the course. And I understand, I mean, you had ABA, NBA, and you had your Kuzis but you had your Bill Russells, who actually, I believe, has 11 NBA championships, if I'm not mistaken.
It's either 11 or 13, but it's an unbelievable number.
It's an unbelievable number. And you've had areas and pockets in time, same with football too, I guess, but I think great quarterbacks are great quarterbacks. Pockets of time where you've had Elgin Baylor, the greatest of his era, of an era, maybe. Jordan took 6 years to get past the Pistons. I'm not too altogether sure. And God, I almost, I think about let's not forget about the Spurs, who always get forgotten about. The Admiral finally got there after he got Tim Duncan.
Yep.
But Tim Duncan had some... I think he's not as appreciated as he should be.
He's not because he's just so quiet, but I mean, on my all-time NBA team, if I pick a starting 5, Tim Duncan's in it.
Yep, and again, it's hard to, if you're a guy who's say 70 or even older, you may be picking different players. Now, I always think Jordan is in the hunt. Magic somehow gets in the hunt, and I say somehow because he does deserve it, because he was amazing. I know they throw Larry Bird in there because I do believe he took I think they had the worst record in NBA history. They went from worst to first. One of the worst records to the best record the year he came in, and I think I'm close on that. But and as much as I love Larry, I don't know if I'd put him in my top 5.
No, I don't. I don't have him in my starting 5. Okay. I take LeBron over him.
Okay, but here's the thing: Jordan comes up and should. to me, LeBron should come up and should.
Magic Johnson
Shaq should come up.
Shaq for me is one of the greatest of all time.
Magic Johnson. Now, but I guess what I'm saying about nowadays, there is nobody that can change the NBA landscape or hope for fans than this thing LeBron is going to be doing.
Not to mention, people want to play with LeBron. People come to LeBron. People will take less money.
Except
people,
Kawhi, he goes.
Yeah, well, no, not Kawhi. Kyrie.
Kyrie.
Yeah.
Kyrie.
But most people want to play with LeBron. If he's going somewhere, there are free agents that want to go and play with LeBron because they know you have a chance at the title when you have LeBron on your team.
And he was a ding-dong and punched a wall and got a broken hand, and I understand that didn't help him any. But I got to say, too, that was such a bonehead move.
Still.
What's his name, JR?
Yeah, J.R. Smith.
Oh, my God.
But still think about it this way. If LeBron goes to the Lakers,
right now,
the Lakers go from a non-playoff team to probably being a 4th or 5th seed with LeBron James on it. With Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, Randall, Ingram, being another year with LeBron, and somebody's probably going to come with them, whether it's Kawhi getting traded there, which means you're going to lose 2 of those young players, or whether it's Paul George going there.
Yeah.
Paul George goes there with LeBron James, with all those young players. All of a sudden, boom, that team's a contender in the Western Conference. It's a 4th or 5th seed, in a stacked Western Conference.
Right, that's the problem. I say that he changes definitely the landscape in the East. If he stayed in the
Wherever
East,
he goes in the East, he makes them He makes them an Eastern Conference champ, regardless.
Yeah,
no matter
I
who
would
he
agree
goes
with
to
that.
in the East.
So,
if he went to Milwaukee, I would pick him to win the East.
Yeah, and if he went, and in the West, I get that you got your Golden State Warriors, so
and your Houston Rockets,
and he can't do that by himself. You can't, but he's the one player right now
that would make you go, wow, the Lakers could maybe do something.
Whatever you think Durant would do going to some other team, if LeBron went there,
it would be better.
It would be better, and that's my point when people start talking stupid, and I don't mean to offend you, stupid people who talk stupid like that, but you're being stupid because he is. He would, and even let's say you put him on. You could put him on OKC. That'd be crazy. I think that
you put him on OKC with Westbrook and Paul George stays and maybe Carmelo Anthony comes off the bench because he'd have to with some of the other players, but you could take him if anybody on the East becomes an instant contender to win the East. You could stick him on Milwaukee. He's gonna. I'm going to look at Milwaukee as a serious contender with the Antetokounmpo and LeBron James.
Oh, you did it again.
But I'm going to look at Milwaukee as a team that could win the Eastern Conference. I won't look at them to win the whole thing, but I will look at them to win the Eastern Conference. You stick him on the Indiana Pacers. You stick him on the Miami Heat. Even the Miami Heat, I think, would have a chance to get back there again, even with as old as that team is. I think he could still get the Miami Heat back there.
I do, too. And
but that's the kind of a game changer that LeBron is.
And I'm not saying that Durant and them aren't, but they're pieces of a puzzle.
Durant's still a great player, but he can't do what LeBron can do.
Nope, not at all. And neither can Curry or any of the other guys. Although Curry does too. I like Curry.
I like Curry. I like Durant. When people were blasting Durant because you went to a place where it was easy to win a championship. It is never easy.
I was going to say
to win a championship.
No,
never.
I like Curry.
And
I like Indian food.
I still like Durant on that team. I'm glad Durant's got titles. I'm glad Curry's getting these titles. Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. I'm glad. The other funny part about that is JaVale McGee is winning titles. JaVale McGee is getting championship rings. He's a former Nugget. He's a former Washington Wizard. And he's getting titles, and Golden State is a piece of a puzzle. But he's still getting rings, and he wasn't going to get them here in Denver.
No, he wasn't. Okay,
but I've always liked JaVale
Let's say
McGee.
that. What happens if LeBron comes to Denver?
If LeBron comes to Denver, I've already done a video on this where I think with the pieces that are in place here, with Millsap, Jokic, Harris, Murray, Lyles, with guys like that, I think we become a favorite in the West. I really do. I think that team, because Murray and Harris are good young guards that are going to get better this year, Millsap, if he can stay healthy, if you have a starting lineup that has Harris, Murray, Jokic, Millsap, and LeBron James, that is formidable.
It is.
That is a formidable starting lineup, and we still have some good bench players in Barton and Lyles and Herman Gomez, and I don't know if we'll keep Plum Lee, and I know they're trying to get rid of Fareed because Fareed is going to cost way too much money under the cap, but I don't know. Atlanta's saying they might take Fareed, but we have to give up one of our young players or our draft pick. If it dumps the 13, 16 million he's due under the cap, I say give him the pick.
Basketball, the cap doesn't generally mean anything.
No, but it's like the Nuggets lose money. The Nuggets aren't a money maker, and if they're having to pay a luxury tax, they're not making the money that they would make.
It'd be worth it for a
But
championship.
it would be. It'd be worth it. I think that Fareed is a good piece player. You only got to keep him for one more year, and then he's gone. You can let him be a free agent. But you're not really going to get anything for him anyway. You're basically just trying to unload his salary.
So, let's do this real quick before we go. What team does LeBron need to go to? Because I would like to see him get through 2 or 3 more rings to put him at 500. 2 rings is all he needs, I think.
No. He's like 3 and 6 right now in it, so he needs 3 more rings.
Oh, damn. Okay, so what team does he need to go to take down the Warriors? Tear down
The Warriors.
The wall. No, he doesn't. That's just, I won't accept that. I will not accept your answer.
The Houston Rockets with Chris Paul and Harden and the pieces that they have in place. I believe that if he went to the Houston Rockets right now with all the team that they have, this is with Chris Paul not opting out, but, and why would Chris Paul opt out if he has LeBron James coming to his town to play with Houston? And you have Harden, and you have LeBron, Trevor Ariza, and you have all those pieces of that puzzle.
Crazy.
That team, in my opinion, can take down the Golden State Warriors.
They almost took him down anyway.
They could have taken him down. If Chris Paul wouldn't have got hurt, we might be talking about the Houston Rockets as the champs right
Actually,
now. D'Antoni might finally have gotten his ring with all those, great
Paul,
teams.
That did hose him.
Did hose him. Chris Paul not being there for those last 2 games hosed him completely.
I don't think the Warriors are all.
But that's just it. If LeBron goes to the Houston Rockets right now with a healthy Chris Paul, James Harden, and the team that's already there, the Rockets probably win the title next year.
Okay.
So if you want to see, and they win titles for the next few years, because Harden with LeBron is a great 1-2 punch.
Okay.
Even if Chris Paul finally retires, but I have a feeling Chris Paul would stick around for 3 more years.
What would happen?
And the Rockets would be phenomenal.
What would happen if let's say, in the East? Well, in the East, we already know he'd take any team there. I think the Celtics probably could take down the Warriors with LeBron.
The Celtics could, but then again, you're getting into that whole problem of Kyrie Irving, and you would have to get rid of Al Horford, because the problem is it's like with Hayward, with Kyrie Irving, and with Horford, you have 3 max players under the contract that are commanding a ton of money.
Yeah.
So you would have to get rid of Horford because LeBron James is going to be a max money player.
And you know what? The Celtics are close enough without him.
The Celtics would be close enough without him. There's enough with Tatum and Brown and Kyrie and Hayward and LeBron. That's a team that could take down That is a team that could take down the Warriors. But if Kyrie didn't want to play with LeBron in Cleveland, he's not going to want to play with them in Boston either.
You know what? That was silly talk on my part.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things. I think the 2 players that really don't want to play ever with LeBron James again is Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie Irving.
So I'm thinking, for LeBron getting the rings that he is going to need
to even him out at 6 and 6,
he is going to need a team that's, like I said, he's a guy that can take any team there by himself.
But to beat the Warriors consistently,
you need a team that
is special.
Has at least a couple of players that aren't Love and whoever else we had.
Yeah, Love or Hood or J.R. Smith
you do need your Dwayne Wade or you got to have another superstar.
Yeah.
There was no superstar.
There was no second superstar on those Cleveland teams.
And I'm not
you were going up against a team that had 2 superstars plus 2 more all-stars. You had Durant and Curry with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. So you were going to a place with 2 superstars, 2 all-stars, and you had 1 superstar and an all-star.
I don't know I don't know if Houston would need LeBron to do it because they were damn close. And maybe what you're talking about here is I'm not too altogether sure, like you said, if Houston is the better team, if he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, does Houston get into that? Does Houston beat the Golden State Warriors, and they are in the finals? And can you imagine adding LeBron to that mix? A team that could have almost beat the Warriors, now it has LeBron.
Can they? Couldn't they?
I still think the Rockets should have won that series. If it wasn't for Chris Paul getting hurt, we might be talking about D'Antoni finally getting his ring, Harden getting his ring, Chris Paul getting his ring. So we might be talking a totally different.
There may be too many superstars on that team to get LeBron.
No, there's not. There's only two superstars in Paul and Harden, and then you would add Ariza. All the rest of them are just really good pieces of the puzzle. But you put LeBron on that team.
Is Houston in the running?
I don't think. No, they have talked about Houston before. They've talked about putting Houston there, and I think he's gonna visit Houston. So, like I said, LeBron's gonna visit a lot of teams, and he's gonna see who he really fits in with, and he's gonna make a decision that's partially based on business and partially
based on the Clippers. They had a team.
Drummond. Who's the center? They got the big center that, not Drummond. That's the guy that plays for Detroit. They have one center left, and they don't have a lot of real.
What happened to Griffin and all of
Griffin is a Piston. Oh. Yeah, Blake Griffin is a Piston now, and of course Chris Paul is a Rocket. They gutted that team, and they have.
That would have been cool if he could, because he wanted to go to L. If he wanted to go to LA.
Yeah, go to LA. Could you imagine having Griffith, the big center? I wish I could remember his name, because he's really, really a good center. He just can't shoot free throws. Chris Paul and LeBron James. That's a good team too, but it's not existent.
I'm excited for him to. Well,
I'm excited to see where LeBron goes. The one thing that I just don't see LeBron doing, staying in Cleveland.
Oh no, he can't. No, don't do it. Don't. And I was happy that you went back. That was the right thing.
And he got a championship for Cleveland, which was awesome.
Championship. And that was the right. You did the right thing.
Yeah, he did, and I think that was part of LeBron's thing. He thought that is something he left undone,
and he did it.
And how many people can sit there and say they won at home?
Oh.
They took their hometown team to a championship. How many people get to say that?
You don't.
How many people get to say, I went to my hometown team, we got to a title, I left them, got a little bit better, won a couple of titles, and I said, you know what? I think I'm good enough that I can go back to my hometown and win a championship for my hometown so that they can experience what I got to experience somewhere else, but I get to bring that experience to my hometown.
I was so against LeBron, the way he left and everything. I rooted against him.
I didn't. I've always rooted for LeBron. Even when he went to Miami, I was rooting for him every year.
And I didn't. And then when he went back, I'm like, yeah, right thing to do. And I'm pulling for him to do it. And now, I don't care where you go. I'm rooting for him now. Because I'm tired of people. I hate it when people talk crap about certain things, because he is the greatest of this time.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt.
He's the greatest of this era, and that's what a lot of people forget. And this is the thing that always kind of bugs me about eras. We forget the previous eras. Once we get into an era, our memories only go back usually about 25, 30 years. Think about it this way: when they talk about the greatest,
old joke there, but
it's like when you talk about, we'll go NFL real quick. You talk about the greatest quarterbacks of all time. A lot of times now, when people are talking about it, they forget about Montana, they forget about Elway, they forget about Kelly, they forget about Marino, and they only go back to maybe Brett Favre, or they go back, they don't go back as far anymore, and they definitely forget about Bart Starr. They definitely forget about Unitas. Otto Graham is one of the best football players of all time, but nobody talks about him.
They always say Cleveland never won anything. Well, for those of you that don't realize this, Google Cleveland Browns championships. They won with
tons of NFL championships.
You bet, with Otto Graham and Jim Brown. They won Green Bay-ish numbers.
Oh yeah, they won tons of titles when they had those guys. And that's another point. Jim Brown. Yeah. When you talk about the greatest running backs of all time, sometimes our memories only go back to like Barry Sanders. We forget about Walter Payton. We forget about Jim Brown. We forget about O.J. Simpson. We forget about running backs.
Who Barry Sanders' dad thinks was the greatest of all time?
Jim Brown.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, he doesn't even think his son is the greatest of all time. He thinks that Jim Brown was the greatest running back of all time. He still says it to this day that Jim Brown was the greatest.
Well, Jim Brown, he was almost unstoppable.
He was unstoppable, and he retired after 10 years, and he said, I'm done. What kind of records would he have set? But we go back only a certain amount of time. That's why we forget about Wilt Chamberlain.
Well,
we forget about, we forget about Bill Russell. We forget about Cousy. We forget about Havlicek.
Oh, sure.
We're starting to forget about guys like Stockton. We're starting to forget about guys, we're starting to forget about even Steve Nash. We're forgetting about him. Because he never really won any titles, but he was one of the greatest point guards of all time.
If you say
but
so.
We start to forget some of these guys as the eras move on, and we only go back.
I agree with that, and I do completely the way you're setting that up, and this is interesting. Nowadays, you compare a quarterback, you'll say, well, if he doesn't have a 60% completion percentage, he's not thought of as being all that great.
No.
Well, look at your Hall of Famers, your Montanas, your Elways. They're not at 60%.
But it was a different league.
That's something they forget.
Yeah.
How much harder it was to complete a pass.
The rules have evolved over the years. We'll take baseball as a big one, and I remember seeing this. Do you know what a home run used to be? If the ball bounced over the wall, it was a home run.
No way.
Yeah, there used to be that. That was pre-modern era baseball. But if a ball bounced over the wall, it was considered a home run. So you see how rules change and evolve over time. Remember, defensive backs used to be allowed to mug receivers, basically grab them and hold on to them. Now you can't touch them.
No, and that's why I'm saying.
But the rules always evolve.
Yeah. You're a guy like Fran Tarkenton, 47,000 yards in the era he threw in. Is amazing. John Elway, Jim Kelly, these guys, they had to. You had Stablers.
But can you imagine? Can you imagine what Stallworth and
Lynn
Swan would have done if they weren't allowed to get completely mugged? You're talking two of the elite wide receivers ever, and they played in an era where they were not allowed to just get off the line.
And I didn't bring this up on our show with the Terrell Owens. Lynn Swan had to wait forever to get in the Hall of Fame because he only played, they say, 9 years or so. And that was crap, T.O. Look at that. That guy, Hall of Fame. It took forever.
Look at Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp didn't get in first ballot, and he's considered one of the best tight ends to ever play the game.
I kind of got off the subject on that, but there's different eras mean different things, and
But we forget, and so we look back and we look at LeBron. Though this whole thing is basically about LeBron changing the landscape, no matter where he goes, putting him in the conversation of being the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And the reason he's in that conversation is because he is a player that can change the landscape just from picking a team, and all of a sudden that team is a contender.
Jordan, in as much as I think Jordan is in that too, the first 6 years in the league, he couldn't get past.
Here, I'll give you another team. This is another sneaky team that I think that LeBron could go to and nobody's really talking about. New Orleans. Pelicans.
I hate that name.
With a healthy Boogie Cousins as your enforcer.
I love that name.
Yeah, Boogie Cousins is a great name. And with Anthony Davis and some of the young pieces that they have there, that could be a team that LeBron, and New Orleans is kind of a fun place to be.
Oh,
you could, if you put LeBron there, you have Anthony Davis. Even think Minnesota with Karl Anthony Towns and some of those guys. Like I said, there are so many places that LeBron can go. Like you said, there are so many places LeBron goes. It changes the landscape, and that's why he's the GOAT. That's why he's in the conversation for the GOAT.
Yeah, it's hard
because he changes the NBA.
Everybody's always going to say, well, Jordan won the champ, and he did, and it does mean something. But the greatest, except for Jordan, do lose championships. They put a frickin' great team around Jordan when he started.
Both times.
When he started winning. They really, there were, Pippen, arguably the second best player.
Oh, he's the best sidekick in history.
Yeah. He is.
He's a great sidekick.
And that Rodman, holy crap, the guy just
but even when he won his first titles, he still had Horace Grant. He still had Cartwright. He still had Hodges. He had very good
Horace
players.
Grant was
Horace
an all-star.
Grant was a real good
Yeah,
player.
he really was.
He was very underrated, but he was a real good player.
And
then the next time, of course, when Jordan came back, he had Pippen and he had Rodman.
Yeah.
And he had the three-headed monster of Will Perdue, Bill Wennington, and Luke Longley that were basically there to kill Shaquille O'Neal.
15 fouls.
Yep, 18 fouls.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
18 fouls for three big guys, and all you could do is just punish Shaquille O'Neal.
So, I mean...
And look at the size of all those guys. Every one of those guys was thick. That none of them were skinny little wimps. I mean, Will Perdue was a big dude, Wennington was a big dude, and Luke Longley was a big dude.
That's when,
and their only job was just to hassle Shaq.
And that's when Shaq was with Orlando.
Yep.
And again, I mean, there's no player to me that changes the landscape in this era right now.
Like LeBron.
Yeah, it's like you said, Pelicans. Oh my God, I hadn't thought about that. But
well, the Pelicans. I mean, that's just the weird thing. You can start looking at these teams and looking at some of their pieces and going, if you put LeBron there, they work. The Sacramento Kings. I'm gonna have a hard time making a case for the Sacramento Kings, but how good Sacramento would be one of the worst teams, and then they would jump to being a playoff contender. That's how much LeBron changes the landscape. The Sacramento Kings could be competing for that 7th or 8th playoff spot, and if you have LeBron James on your team, who's to say if you get the 7th seed, you can't knock the 2 seed off, as long as the 2 seed isn't the Warriors.
Yeah, but you never know. I mean,
but that's the thing. That's why LeBron, like you said, wherever he goes, he changes the landscape.
It's this goes back to I remember when Reggie White was doing his tour in the NFL of where he wanted to go, and you know they had Brett Favre, but his prowess and leadership, he was going everywhere. Peyton Manning, in all honesty, did it with Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
He took
he went around. He went to San Francisco. He went to Tennessee. He went to us. He
came to us and made us a legitimate.
And I remember at the time I thought San Francisco was the best fit because San Francisco had that monster defense.
Yeah.
San Francisco had, when it was Pat Willis in his prime, and I think Navarro Bowman was really good, and that defense was so good. It was one of the top defenses. They just needed somebody like Peyton Manning.
4 years, we went to 2 Super Bowls. We won 1. We could have competed in the other one.
And still, you know what? I know that season was a misstep for us at the end, but when that season was happening with that offense, it was so much fun to watch.
Oh, God.
Remember how much fun those games were to watch? I mean, they just outscored everybody.
We were so banged up in that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I know
no Clady, no Von Miller. I don't think we had Chris Harris.
Nope.
We were missing so many pieces.
Trevathan, I don't think, was on it.
No, I don't think Trevathan was healthy.
It was... We really were hurt, and you never get that. It would have been a competitive game, I honestly believe, if we'd have had it. It doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter now. That's Seattle Super Bowl. It's theirs.
It is. But look what Manning did. Look what Drew Brees would do if he went to a team. He could change some landscaping. Aaron Rodgers could do it. Any quarterback could do it who's of elite status.
Yeah.
And there's only about 4 or 5 in the NFL right now.
Tom Brady. I still think Tom Brady could change the lane. I think Tom Brady, if he went to another team, let's say you put Tom Brady on the Broncos, I'm putting him in the Super Bowl.
We are in the Super Bowl.
It's like there's no way you lose with our team with the defense and Tom Brady at the helm.
Tom Brady makes every receiver
He makes every receiver. I'm sorry, Amendola and Edelman, you guys are mediocre wide receivers, but when Tom Brady's putting the ball right where your hands are and all you got to do is this and clamp around the ball.
Or this, and this in that one Super Bowl.
Yeah. But still, Brady puts it where only you can catch it.
That was awesome. Well, I have...
that's a long show, but I liked it. It was fun.
It was fun. And I was right.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, to the troops, past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.